Today we entitle it How to Be a Hard Man, Mentally and Physically. We're talking about mindset.
Okay, we have L99 said peace to the saints. Do you have any advice to a young man dealing with regrets?
Live in the present. You cannot click undo in life. And the more time that you dwell on the past, the more you squander your moments today and your opportunities today. So, however heinous what you did is in reality, or however heinous you're making it out to be in your mind, doesn't matter. You must carry on. Anyways, let's talk about the mental aspects of being a hard man. These are in no particular order, so please forgive me. But let us start by saying that the mindset of a hard man is to accept reality. The reality is that life has many good things, but also life has a promise. And among those good things, life promises that you will have challenge in the form of poor health, loss of wealth, loss of love, and loss of loved ones. When I say poor health, I mean there will be variation in your health, whether you've been afflicted by the current variant or you fall ill with something more serious. Your health will have fluctuation, even if it doesn't occur until old age. And that's a promise. It's a part of being a human being. But you don't have to be surprised by that because it's coming for all of us. And secondly, you don't have to pout and be weak about it because you can dominate when you can anticipate. So I have warned you, if you didn't already realize, your health will have variation. The health of those around you will have variation. Secondly, loss of wealth. If you have had the privilege of being wealthy, it is also likely you have had the privilege of losing great wealth. No successful entrepreneur has achieved such without taking great risk. And in taking great risk, you put yourself up for the opportunity to have a big payoff. You can only have a big payoff when you also have the other side of the coin, which can be great loss. This will happen to you. And the reality is that you should not fret when it does happen, knowing that if you're really a hustler and you've actually gained the knowledge and skills of a wealthy man, you can rebuild. And when you really have a hustler's mindset, you enjoy the process as much as you enjoy the outcome. So know that in this life, you will experience fluctuations in wealth. You may experience poverty, homelessness, all of those things, of which I am familiar with and have experienced them. And they give you great balance when you know how to use those experiences. Lastly, you'll have loss of loved ones. I find it strange that people seem to be so distraught when their grandmother or grandfather dies. I love my grandmother and grandfather as much as you do, but clearly they're in old age. They're on their way out. I bet they knew it too. So why is it you become so broken up as though you didn't expect it, as though it snuck up on you? Grandma was 100 years old, buddy. She had to go at some point. So what I'm saying is that you can expect health challenges, wealth challenges, loss of love, loss of loved ones. And as a man who accepts reality and expects things to happen in this human life, when those things show up, you should be mentally prepared. You should not fall apart. You should say, I knew this would be here. And you should deal with it like a man. And you'd be a greater man to deal with it with a smile and with pleasant.
We have Ezekiel said, peace to the saints, Marquette. I appreciate the game. What percentage of women today in the US do you think are worth giving a relationship commitment to?
It's a great question.
A very small amount.
Yes, it's a small amount, and the amount will vary depending on where you're living. For example, if you live in Miami, which is a reflection of much of Latin America, I would say the percentage is very low because it's a very plastic culture. Most of the women are like the bionic man. Half their body parts are fake, and it's merely a physical representation of their internal world and their mindset, which is concerned with things that are phony and shiny and look good on the outside, but there's nothing on the inside. And Miami exists in Las Vegas. It exists in Los Angeles. It exists in many big cities like that. You'll find significant numbers of gold diggers in New York. Often they have bad attitudes and bad accents as well in New York. But once you get outside of these major cities, you find more culture. This is true around the world. Cities are generally breeding grounds for idiotic ideas and the destruction of true culture. And instead, people begin to be washed over with television culture, the culture that comes from social media, idiocy. So when you get to rural places or you get to suburbs, you find higher quality people. So what I would recommend is you find a nice girl who's, middle class, maybe lower middle class, who grew up in a suburb or a rural setting. She's more likely to have values. And I'd say of the population of the United States, I'd say less than 15% of women are worth committing to.
Okay, we have DeRavy Vicious said, "Peace to the saints, move forward like a fearless lunatic."
Indeed. Let us always remember that. And that's worth hearing every day, especially because we encounter fear every day as human beings. The second piece that I have for you is that the show must go on, which is very much so in line with what the saint shared in terms of go forward like a fearless lunatic. The show must go on is the idea that no matter what happened to you, we must carry on. Sometimes we have this call out mentality. And what I mean by call out is like call out sick, make excuses. When you have a show must go on mentality, you will be a valued employee at your job because you are reliable. Your boss knows they can count on you. When you have a show must go on mentality, your spouse will love you more because they know that you will always be there for them because you're always there for you. The show must go on is the idea that no matter what happened that day, we're going to do what we said we were going to do if we're able. And 99.9% of the time, we are able. There was a time I was afflicted with this pestilence that has supposedly ravished the land. I was feeling under the weather. And would I have 5 consultations back to back that day?
Back to back.
And I still did all 5 of my consultations back to back. There have been times I had to work through the night and I was quite sleepy and tired. And I still did my work. There was a time I was training teachers in Philadelphia and I'd been working around the clock, partly doing the teacher training and partly working on my tech startup. And I was dog tired. And I remember I had a break and I went in the bathroom and I laid down on the floor in the bathroom during my break and took a 15-minute nap on the bathroom floor. And then after that, I woke up, walked out of there, and got back to work because the show must go on.
Well, the first time you were talking about when you were feeling a bit under the weather, I even said we should cancel these, and I've never recommended canceling anything,
Right.
but I've never seen you like that, and you said, "No, like, I've had my word. I'm
That's
doing
right.
this."
We're going to get it in. So the show must go on is what you should always have in your head. And when you carry on like that, you begin to trust yourself in a new way because you know you're always going to find out an avenue through which you can be successful. So really hold on to that idea. And admittedly, there were 2 times I was on runs and I didn't feel good when I started the run. And when I got deep into the run, I didn't feel good. But I had said, I'm going to run this number of miles. And so whatever I have to do to get there, I'm going to do it. And I literally had a situation where everything that was inside of my stomach was spilling out. And I had to, like relieve myself in semi in public and take off my shirt to wipe my ass. And I hate to admit it, but it just is what it is. I went too damn hard that day. And it was extremely embarrassing. I had to call Bridget to come pick me up. And when she showed up, she said, "Where's your shirt?" I had to wipe my ass with the shirt. Extremely embarrassing. And I'm even embarrassed to share that with you, except that when I was feeling under the weather when I started the run, I said, I'm still going to run. And when I was running and I started to feel everything breaking down, I kept going. And when she came to pick me up, I didn't meet the goal that I had set out, but I did everything that one could have done to get there. And I felt good about myself. Much better than I would have felt if I would have not left out on that run. Much better than I would have felt if I took got it 3 miles in and said, "Okay, I better go back." I know that I'm always going to go the whole mile. And that's why I think if you're foolish enough to play with me, you're a damn fool because I'm always going to go too far. That's who I really am. I'm going to go too far. So anyone who's playing with my name out there, no matter how small or how big, I want you to know I will come for you and I'm going to go too far. So don't even start it because that's really who I am.
We have a plus MVP. He said, one of my girls left me for a man in his late 40s, early 50s.
It's a unique experience to get knocked for one of your broads, but he probably did you a favor because at the end of the day, she wasn't sure female now, was she? So he just took a disloyal little thing off of your hands. So you might even send him a thank you note.
We have Kevin K. He said, greetings, Saint. You preach to avoid the poor and ugly. I understand avoiding the impoverished, but could you elaborate on why you should avoid the ugly?
That's a great question. The ugly are very dangerous for a couple different reasons. Let me tell you a story that a young lady recently told me. And of course, this is more problematic among females, but there are three young ladies, all of whom were very good friends with one another. They went out to a pool party here in Las Vegas, and two of the young ladies were talking to two gentlemen. And the third young lady wasn't in the pool. She was hanging out outside of the pool. She didn't want to get her hair wet. You can tell she's African American, right? So eventually, one of the guys who was with those two girls starts eyeballing the girl who's not even in the pool and even makes a remark about how good looking she is. And she's a lot more good looking than the first two girls that they were supposed to be paying attention to. These three girls all being friends, the ugly ones, and I hate to use this term because it's negative, but the ugly ones essentially abandoned the good looking girl, didn't want to be friends with her, even though she did not drive any infidelity or any misbehavior. They not only stopped being friends with her, but started trying to sabotage her and talk behind her back and spread gossip about her. Which is to say, when you're dealing with someone who is ugly, whether it's in a literal sense of unattractive, or they have an ugly attitude, or an ugly mindset, or they engage in ugly behaviors, drinking, smoking, things like this. These are the folks who tend to be jealous of you. They want to pull you down because they see you shining and they feel like your shine is at their detriment. You see, whereas if these were all three good looking persons, and when I say good looking, meaning attractive, they have attractive qualities, whether it's attractive personality, they're well spoken, they're well dressed, whatever the case is. If they were dealing with someone and that person was interested in their friend or complimented their friend, even without being interested, they wouldn't be so broken up about it because they're used to getting good things. They're used to getting compliments. They're used to being in the center of attention sometimes. And so they don't mind stepping aside to let someone else enjoy some shine. But when you never get the compliment, you never get to get the shine, you become envious and hateful. And that's why you want to stay away from these persons who are not on your level because they'll want to tear you down to where they are.
Okay. Hey, this is Kaizen Graphics on IG, and I was wondering if I could get another chance at working to be your thumbnail designer.
Um, I do recall your message on Instagram, which I read personally, and I offered you an opportunity in that moment. I tend to have a sense of urgency, and my experience in business is that deals get closed when there's a sense of urgency, excitement on both sides of the deal. And me believing in this community, I always, if I can, offer the opportunity to people who are within this community. You may know that there are many people who do it for free. I offered to do a deal at the rate that you offered. And I said, okay, let's get started and let's get this done. I remember when I was a young man, ambitious in business, I was hungry to get a sale and to get a dollar. If someone offered me a sale, I'm gonna get to work on it right now. And I'm gonna try to over deliver, deliver it better than expected, deliver it earlier than expected. I don't know if you're working with people overseas. I can only assume that you are, and as much as the timing that you suggested was not quite reflective of the business hours in the West. But at the end of the day, I'm not interested, but I do appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, we have Ty said an old homie of mine's was throwing indirect shots at me through social media instead of addressing me directly. How should I handle him?
Well, if he's just a big mouth, just let him carry on. If that's all he really is about, let him do what he do. Because real friends don't throw shots. I mean, even yesterday I'd like made a tease of someone I respect. And I even regretted it, even just teasing with no malicious intent. So real friends don't do things like that. And if they do, they would probably present themselves and apologize. So if he's just a big mouth broad, I'd probably ignore it if it's not doing any damage to your reputation, etc. And general therapy, it depends on what you're getting therapy for. Sometimes you don't need therapy. Sometimes you just need to stop being a bitch. And then other times you do. Other times you've experienced deep trauma and you need someone to help you unpack that.
Okay, we have Agent Fit. He's the one that was talking about the thumbnails earlier. He said, "It's all good. It's my fault. I wasn't prepared. I had no clue you would respond, and I was at work at the moment. Peace to the Saints, 100K soon."
I appreciate that. And you know what? I've been in that exact situation of being underprepared. I've done that before. And that's a good thing is that you learn and you get better opportunities.
RG said, "Peace to the Saints. Do you have any advice for young men in their early 20s?"
Minimize your vices. Use condoms. Don't consume alcohol and pick a goal. Stay focused on the goal. There's certain places that are devoid of the good energy and opportunity that you would want. Places like hospitals, it's a place for the sick, or places like prisons, place for the mentally ill or the incompetent or the emotionally underdeveloped. You see, I like to try to stay around prosperity and beauty and wealth. That's really what you should be aiming for. And you might be saying, Marquette, well, someone has to work in the hospital, someone has to work in the prison. Yes, someone does, but not you. And the same is true when you want to be a movie star. And people say, you can't do that. Well, someone has to be a movie star. How about you? So I'm never here to discourage anyone. I'm always here to point out the reality. And if we can help you route to that outcome, but always put your seed in fertile soil. And I don't think a box, a cement steel box with grown men trapped inside of it is a comfortable place to be emotionally or physically.
Okay, we have
But it pays well. And I don't hate anybody earning, especially when you have a wife and a child. So I do want to throw that out there.
Okay, we have Ty said, "What are some steps to forgive myself for dirt I've done in the past and live happy in the present?"
Step one, I got a book recommendation for you, which is actually, I'm not going to give you a book recommendation. I'm going to tell you to read a whole book because that's just going to send you into thinking. Your biggest issue right now is thinking. You have to get control of your mind. You see, the things you've done in the past don't exist in the present for the most part. It's your thoughts that get you carried away. So I'd recommend that you start your day doing the following. You wake up, you have a protein drink or whatever you have that's light enough so that you can go exercise immediately. Following your exercise, go ahead and clean up, shower, and then I would get straight into meditation, which is not prayer. Meditation is different than prayer. Prayer might be asking God or higher power for strength. Meditation is asking yourself for strength, and it's focused thought and it's time in silence. And I would use that to identify your goal and what you want out of life. And the more you become goal obsessed, the more you forget about the things unrelated to your goal. And you also want to focus on the fact that you are deserving, you deserve great things. And the more you can have self love, the less you will have self loathing and self hate for some of the dirt you've done in the past.
We have G said, "How do I get out of my own head?"
That's a good question, Saint. Uh, per what I said to the previous Saint, is thinking can often be the enemy. Me, I think people respect me for my ability to think, but I'm often trying not to think. My morning meditation, I like to use to do all of my thinking for that day. You should really emphasize on action. And what I do to get my mind under control when it's out of control is writing. I write down what my goal is, I write down what my immediate next step is. The challenge is sometimes we allow the mind to become overwhelmed. The reason you become paralyzed and you stop taking action is because you want to achieve this big goal. So you're thinking about all of the things you have to do to achieve this big goal, when in reality, you should only think about the one next step you have to do. Your mind can handle that. Your mind cannot handle the next 30 steps. thinking about all of them at once. You overwhelm the mind. The mind is a tool just like a screwdriver or a flathead or a hammer. You can't use a hammer to do a screwdriver's job. Each tool has a limit. Your brain has a limit of what it can handle at once. And for that, you should allow it to handle just the immediate next step at once. I'll go ahead.
We have Hydra said, "Do you think women who get BBLs are mentally ill?"
I don't think because they get the BBL, we can be certain that they're mentally ill. They're suffering from an affliction that ails most women, which is to follow the follower. One woman does it, the other one does it. That's why you find that women so uniformly accept the concept of makeup and high heels, even though both of them are ludicrous. How silly is it to stand on stilts all day knowing that it's uncomfortable and bad for your physical health? It's complete idiocy. But they play follow the follower, which is to say that they're not ill, they're female. And the problem is that these females are not being led by men who say, I do not accept you standing on stilts. You look foolish. Don't tell them in that way. They don't accept that very well, but who set the standard and say that this is not the right way. You do not need to put false nails on top of real nails. You don't need to stand on stilts. That is the problem. Much of what we see lacking in the female is merely a result of what has been lacking in the male leadership.
Okay, we have Ezekiel. He said, "How do you get a solid main girl on board with having relations with other girls? Do you think it's best to be honest up front?" Thoughts?
Women are not operating from a place of rationality. Consider the fact that if you've been a student of the Saint City podcast, and that's one of the great values in seeing me and Jabrizi, or I should say Jabrizi and I conduct this, is because you get to see people talk to women who are good at it. And you also get to see sharp individuals point out the logic or lack thereof in real time. It's called metacognition. We're thinking about thinking. So sometimes you'll hear a woman say something in those videos, and then you'll hear me say, wait, you said the exact opposite. Or you'll hear a woman say something, and then I'll reply, and then she'll say, oh, I agree with you 100%. And you're like, you don't agree with him. You just said something in complete contradiction. Well, now all of a sudden she agrees, which is to say that they're not operating on logic. They don't think in linear ways, and they're easily influenced. That being the case, to approach them with logic and linear thinking is not going to get you anywhere for the most part. So mostly you have to do what you're going to do and then patch it up on the back end. And that actually works better for them. And further, being that they're emotional, not rational beings, you have to be able to leverage emotion. And they don't have significant emotion for you until they're attached to you. So at that point, then you have a better chance of setting up things as you wish them to be. And most importantly, you'll always be most successful in setting up this dynamic when you're in the proper community wherein this behavior is spoken well of and she can see it operating outside of her. Because as I said, women are basically just doing what every other woman does. So you have to make sure that you're in a community where other women are doing the right thing or are open to certain things. Not often enough do we share good things with people we love. And that's one of the examples we need to give to the world, which is to live in the present, appreciate people while they're here, and try to do things as though it's the last time you'll ever do it when you can, right? Which is actually more often than you think. Now, think about how you would do something if it was the last time you ever got to do it. You almost never see me show up to lecture without notes. Even if I don't use the notes, I still made the notes. The reason this computer is sitting here, which is not even my computer, is because I have my notes here. And the truth is, in my honest opinion, I've only met in real life like maybe two people who can speak at the level I can speak extemporaneously. But even still, I always keep notes because I prepared. And I also want to make sure that if I were to falter, I can still deliver for you because you deserve it, because I value your time and I value my own reputation. And I want to do it like I'm doing it for TV. You dig? You should always do it like you're doing it for TV, which is to say that if you were to encounter your enemy or one of your haters, they should be like, damn, he looking good. You hear me? And that's why the haters entertain me because, I just chuckle at the fact that, man, I got a suite on the strip right now. It's called a wraparound suite. Imagine how big it is when they call it a wraparound suite. I got 2 apartments, you dig? And then I got a house that's way too big. And then I got foreign cars in the garage. What can they how what can they tell me? You know what I'm saying? It's like it just makes me want to laugh at these guys. I'm like, are you guys serious right now? And so anytime you see me, you probably gonna see me wearing something like this, something super player, some velvet or something crazy. And what I'm saying to you is do it like you're doing it for TV. And so when these haters see me, they need to take a picture because you might not never see a real one like this again in your life, boy.
Okay, we have Tyler Lewis said, "How did you develop your supreme confidence?" This is a good segue from what you just talked
Ain't
about.
it?
He said, "I admire the way you carry yourself. Any tips on personal development? I'm probably older than you. However, I look up to you. Thanks for sharing your knowledge."
I think confidence comes from delivering the goods. Number one, especially in adulthood. Number two, if you read my book, The Black Box, you'll hear a little bit about my upbringing. And one of the things that creates that foundational confidence is how your parents or elders or authority figures in your life interacted with you. My grandmother, when I was a boy, told me I was the man. See, so I grew up as a boy being told I'm the man and that I was meant to lead. I was meant to be in a certain position. And so not only did she fill me with that confidence, but also she let me know that you also have to deliver. And so having those two things in parallel gave me a very strong foundation. And it's never too late to become what you're meant to be. Every man is meant to lead, and every man should have the honor of being a king in his household. And every man should have principles that he stands for and goals that he's pursuing. And if you're going to do something, do it confidently. Even if you fail, fail confidently. And that's why I say go forward like a fearless lunatic.
Okay, we have Aaron Joseph said, "Peace to the saints. What do you think are the benefits of journaling?"
Number one, clear thought. Number two, being able to come back to goals. Number three, being able to troubleshoot independently without having to appeal to others and share your shortcomings and your problems. And that's why I highly recommend you get the Jab Journal, which you can get at thesassin.com, THESASN.com. I'm actually waiting for mine right now, which I'm very excited. Not only is it a place to write your thoughts, but it also has so many aphorisms and quotes to drive you. And it also has the structure to make sure that you consider the critical areas of goal setting, financial, relational, meaning relationships, romantic, familial, professional, and health, physical fitness goals, things like this.
Okay, we have Kevin K sent $20. This is his second super chat, I believe. He said, "As a man who was raised by women, your content has taught me how I should conduct myself as a man. For that, I thank you. Peace to the saints."
Thank you. I truly appreciate that compliment. And, just like Mr. Rogers would say to the children, sometimes we think that we can't be this or that because we grew up in fill in the blank situation. But he said something that's true. If you're a boy, you're pretty much going to grow up into a man. If you're a girl, you're pretty much going to grow up into a woman, if nothing tampers with you. And so you were already on the right path. And I'm happy that I can make the path a little more easy and give you a little more certainty as you progress. But you're growing just right.
Okay, we have Drug Hours sent $20.
Peace to the saints.
We have Justin came back with another super chat. He said, "Marquette, how do you create the creed of the assassin? It is a great creed to thrive by."
Thank you. That one was given to me by who knows what spiritual force, but there are two things that were given to me. One, the three sentence Bible. And I remember going to bed saying to myself, I really want something that's so simple, it can easily be translated into any language, and something that's so simple, it's a Bible people actually read, it's a Quran people actually read, it's a Torah people actually read and can remember. And it basically captures a lot of human experience. And I went to sleep and I woke up and I knew the three sentences and they were perfect. Be yourself, be good to yourself, be good to good people. The linguistic structure was just so clear and clean and easy to remember, and it was in perfect order. That was a blessing.
You said it was given to me. I understand what you meant, but like no one wrote
Oh
that for
yeah,
you. It
no,
like came to
yeah,
you.
it came to me. Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. It came to me. It came to me. It
I
was a
just wanted to
spiritual
make it
process.
clear.
Yes.
Okay, we have Robert. He said, "Your words on living without fear changed my life."
Please continue to live without fear and remind others. That'll be a great light to them. Continue to remind yourself because it'll try to creep back in.
Okay, we have Dominic Patel. He said, "After already being in a relationship, I found out my girl used to be a fairly easy to sleep with. It makes me feel resent and distant. Recommendations?"
So, is your understanding that he's currently in the relationship and he
Yes.
finds out back in the day she was on that pogo stick?
Yeah. Mhm.
I get like that. Well, number one, you know, she can't erase or change the past. And no man likes a girl that's been passed around. I'm not going to lie to you. I think we would all feel the same way that you feel. But if the idea is that presently she is not being unfaithful and she's not misrepresenting you, you have to make the decision of, can I accept her for who she is today if she's adding value? Because she cannot undo the past. Am I willing to deal with the implications and the reputation that she has? And if you're not, be swift in scooting her along. But I would encourage you not to worry too much about that because what you're really worrying about is what other people think and what other people say. That's what you're really worried about. Now, if she is someone different today than she was in the past, that's a beautiful thing. It's unlikely, but if she is, that's a beautiful thing. And I would say carry on.
Okay, we have Aidmola said, "Hi, I'm a 17-year-old Nigerian studying engineering in the UK. I'm very insecure about my accent and I'm struggling with time management. Any advice?"
The accent is what it is. And you are what you are. You are Nigerian. That is a fact. And when people hear your accent, it makes sense. You're a Nigerian with a Nigerian accent. It's not like you're a Chinese guy with a Jamaican accent. So I would encourage you to lean into it and to have fun with it. And, you know, might even be funny if you're talking to a young lady and she says, "Oh, I can't understand," or and you tell her, "Oh, I can't understand you. Your accent is very thick." Flip the script on people, have fun and enjoy it. But that's fine. People should have culture. The second piece is about time management. Stop masturbating, stop playing video games, and stop consuming intoxicants. Identify a goal in your jab journal or wherever you write down your goals and write down the steps and then hyper focus on the next step and things that are unrelated. Don't do them. If you really care about your goals and you have some urgency, you'll get to it. The time will get managed. And you have to be able to play psychological games with yourself to drive forward your performance. You have to really want something. Otherwise, your time will be undervalued by you and by others.
Okay, we have a plus MVP. He's the one that had the baller alert. This is his third time sending a super chat
Wow.
today. He said, "I'd like to do some online reputation management for myself as I've been on the news due to my past life. I'd rather not change my legal name, but will if I have to. What are my options?"
This is a very meaningful question. You certainly should do some online reputation management, as you call it, especially if it will impact your financial opportunities. But do be aware that no matter how squeaky clean you are, people will jump out of the shadows to throw dirt on your name. It is just the nature of life today. So if you do have some past legal issues, which are harder to overlook, I'm not going to name the type of legal issues that are hard for people to overlook. I think you can imagine. I think it would be worth um, making some changes. There are firms that specialize in this, so you might consider contacting one. But as far as if it's news articles and things like that, you can actually get those things taken down. And so if there's just like maybe two or three news articles, I would start being strategic and reaching out to those outlets to see how we could get those pieces of information taken down.
Okay, we have Fear the Chad said, "First time paying tuition. I appreciate all that you provide for a saint. Your lectures always leave me feeling inspired to improve myself."
Thank you. I'm very happy to hear that. And I appreciate you trying out something new because it's one of the most difficult things for human beings to do something new.
Yep. We have Ezekiel said, "How important is it for men to practice no fap?"
I don't think it's like huge as some people make it. I think that if we're being honest, some of the people who make videos about it and are really into it, I think those are people who have had problems with addiction. I think that's why they're just so deep into it. And those are people who have a lot of spare time. Now, there have been periods in life in which I didn't even have time to do that. I didn't even have time to consume material. So I don't think it's going to hold you back. I will say that undoubtedly, when you lose semen, whether it's due to masturbation or intercourse, you're just a bit less sharp, a bit less forceful, a bit less ambition. The spirit isn't there. And I think other people can feel and perceive it, but nothing will outdo consistent work and discipline. So I will tell you that I don't think it's a good thing for a man to have intercourse every single day. My personal opinion. I think it draws out your energy, so weight on your time. So I think you should manage it just like you should manage all other things.
We have Drug Hour sent another super chat. He said, "Peace to the saints." Marquette, when you talk about the guy, Nick the Hustler, I felt that story. It taught me to never stop hustling and go for it all and never settle and always surround myself around hustlers.
True indeed. I think about that damn near every day, and I'm so blessed that I had good OGs who were real practitioners to teach me game. Nick the Hustler was a real hustler. Kevin Cox, he was a real super player. And so, I learned the game from a pure source, not from a book or a movie, but from the real doers.
Okay, we have Charles Moon sent a super chat. We have a plus MVP's back again after I don't even know how many this is. He said, "Drug and gun charges, nothing
Mhm.
too immoral. Thanks, Marquette."
Yeah, me personally, gun charges don't bother me if I was hiring, and then drug charges, if you were distributing, don't bother me. If you were consuming, I'd probably be a little bit less pleased about that. If you beat the case theoretically, no one should care. I think that's a lie, though. I think just being accused in the West, people are going to be suspicious of you because that's our sick culture. Even after you do your time, it's like they still want you doing time. They feel like you have a moral debt. But I think if you're applying to work with rational, reasonable men, I think they won't be too worried. I'd hire someone who beat the case, and I would hire someone who had gun charges and drug distribution charges. All right, Saints, let us end this the way we always end this, with our tradition, the creed of the assassin. Repeat after me with full conviction, knowing this is true of you. The creed of the assassin. I am going to be who I truly am because I am remarkable. I'm going to strive every moment to show the greatest part of who I am. Until next time, peace to the saints.